Damn. So. Let's go to the map. This is so long. Okay. Also, I'll say, I'll grab it. This is a big guy. One of them. This is. Yeah. Straight to church. So it's good. It's big one. The readers down. First, it's one six. Yeah. No. So. That's true.
What? So that.
Just 6 something. So what about it? Yeah. Yeah. That's how we do it. So that's right. Yeah.
Monster chips. Or like you get these.
Really?
Fruit, people for the best, but we bring.
Well, yes, I'm sorry. What? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, hello, I think we're ready to call our March 25th, 2025 Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting to order. If you have not been here before, I will give a couple of overriding instructions, comments. So we usually hear two types of cases: appeals for zoning violations, which we have none tonight. And then we also hear requests for zoning variances and special permits. We have a listing of the agenda. We would go in order of that agenda. We would ask for you to come forward when your case is called. You have a seat right here. There's a mic that's on. Our court reporter is not here tonight, and so we are asking that you pull the mic close to your mouth so that we can capture everything that you're stating on the record so that she can transcribe it at a later point. There is a sign-in sheet as well. We ask that you write your name legibly. Sometimes people have a habit of saying their name very quickly because you're used to saying it all the time. And we don't know how that's spelled or pronounced, so we try to get you to write that down for us. The city will present the summary of the case. I will then turn it over to the applicant, and you can add any additional information that you have about the case that was not read about. You will then answer questions from the board that's here. I will then open it up to the audience, concerned neighbors, citizens, to then come up if they want to speak for or against the application. At that point, each person has 3 minutes to speak. We usually let everybody speak who wants to speak, so don't feel like there's going to be a cutoff on that. But if we feel like your testimony is going over the 3 minutes unnecessarily, we will probably cut you off. When you come up to testify, I will ask you to state your name and whether you have been sworn in. We want everyone's testimony to be truthful so that I don't have to swear you in individually. If you are planning to speak tonight, I would ask you to stand so I can swear you in as a group. And then when you come forward, you can say, I was sworn in. So if you're planning on giving any testimony tonight, depending on speaking at the mic, please stand, raise your hand. I promise that the testimony I give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do. I do. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any preliminary matters?
We do have one, case number 2 on the agenda, 407 to 409 South Ohio Avenue. The applicant is going to be requesting a data.
Okay, can the applicant for 407, 409 South Ohio Avenue come forward to request a tabling? Okay, can you state your name, whether you're sworn in?
I was sworn in, and my name is Christopher Pettis.
Okay. State the reason that you're requesting a table.
We're requesting a tabling because the developer, we just need more time to put together a better presentation.
It's valid?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody here that wants to speak about whether or not the board should grant this applicant a tabling? You can come forward. Hello, can you speak into the mic?
Yes, my name is Kanika James.
Have you been
And-
sworn in?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm here on behalf of my mother, Essie James.
Okay.
She's here in the back as well. And we're asking that you move forward with this and actually possibly dismiss this. The board said, one of the variance requests is, that we move from 5,000 square feet down to 2,000 square feet. The city set 5,000 square feet in for a reason. That area is already congested. It has very, very limited parking. There's 13 properties. All of those properties are 4 to 5 bedrooms in that area. So it's a very crowded, very congested area. So to also take the building from 2 parking spaces to 1 parking space would lead to further congestion in that area. The adjacent property at 411 South Ohio has a person who is using ADA. And so to reduce the space and allow them to build closer to that property line, you're taking away some of their.
The question is, do you have, that this should not move forward? I'm taking.
Yes, because it's
Why it shouldn't be approved.
correct, because we have been down here multiple times. This has been caused an extreme hardship for us to continue to come down here. We have been down here twice already.
So staff, second table? This is the second table. Okay. This table last month. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I do have to speak to the lady's concern. Why are we continuing to table? Have you met with the area commission? Have you been through their processes?
Yes, we've been through the NEAC, Near East Area Commission
What was
process.
proposed?
They passed it over.
They passed.
8-4.
Yeah.
So
And to-
what is it?
Yeah, so what's the holdup?
Just we were trying to take some additional concerns from NEAC into consideration. Although they voted to approve it, there were still some concerns that, those 4 additional members that voted against it wanted to take into account. For example, permeable paving. And
But
that,
you have control over when it comes back to us. Why are you putting it back on our agenda if you're not ready?
we're not ready today, but
No, I mean, when we table it, doesn't the applicant have a say in when it comes to it next?
Yeah.
So you thought you were gonna be ready in March,
yeah,
so maybe I should ask you to not contact the city again until you're absolutely ready. To
understood,
make the present, like, don't do this in anticipation of being ready. Make sure we're ready and then call the city to get on the agenda.
understood, yeah.
So to the ladies in the back or anyone else in the audience, we don't want to cause a hardship. We do accept written testimony if you have a concern for or against the application, so you can put that in writing and submit that to the city, and it'll be a part of the record. You have the option of coming in person if you want, or you can submit it that way. But we don't really have a reason, he is not ready to give a presentation right now, so I don't think it would be fair for us to force the applicant to make the presentation, especially since he's saying on the record that he's trying to alleviate some of the concerns from the area.
I don't know that, again, I'm not trying to legislate this thing right now. But I don't hear a real need for you to delay this process at this point. Been approved by the Unedited Area Commission, but we're working on the amendments, so yes, you never need to have unanimous for us to make a decision. Are you seeking to make improvements that would remove variances?
No.
So all the variances are gonna be the same.
Mhm.
So I don't understand why you can't move forward.
We can move forward just because of certain circumstances with the client and the designer and everything. We weren't prepared today to give this presentation fully, but however, if with what we've given so far already, if you guys can make a vote and can make a decision, then we can move forward. But
Can't speak to that until we obviously hear the entire statement, but I got
Yeah.
what I'm saying. You presented your full case
Mhm.
to the area commission, they voted in a majority to approve.
Yeah.
For the variances that are here. All you're going to do is to come back and ask us for the same variances. Even if you make changes for what they want you to do, if they have nothing to do with the variances, that has nothing to do with us. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So, and again, I'm not trying to paint it a corner, but people have demonstrated, it sounds like this is the second or third time. But the tabling, and maybe they're not even necessary.
Yeah. Let's say the entire team wasn't prepared to give a full presentation in terms. So if we can still move forward with the vote and without that,
Without a presentation.
okay, then that's fine. Yeah.
Is there anybody else who wants to speak about the tabling?
I mean, for the record, staff and the new neighborhood one right now. That's my point. But he's saying that.
But he's saying it's not ready for the presentation.
I can discuss the project and give it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's, I mean, you're either in or out.
Okay.
So are you requesting a tabling or not?
Requesting table.
Get the motion? So moved?
Ms. Egelbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah.
Mr. Malacca?
No.
Chair Paul Bailey?
Yes.
That's three votes in favor of the tabling.
Yes, we both in favor of the tabling. Okay, we'll see you when you're ready.
Yes. All
Thank you.
right. Thank you.
Okay, any other preliminary matters?
That's it?
Okay, we're ready to start on our agenda. 5472 Eagle Crest Drive.
Hello, you mean?
Hello. Hello, everybody.
No? Can you state your name, whether you were sworn in?
Yes, my name is Dalibor Milanovic. Yes, my name is Dalibor Milanovic.
Well, have you been sworn in?
Yes,
Can you sign your name on it?
sure.
5472 Eagle Crest Drive is located on the northwest corner of Eagle Crest Drive and now Highlands Boulevard. It is part of the Greater Southeast Area Commission and existing zoning as LR2 Limited Residential District. The 0.21 acre site is currently developed with a single unit dwelling. Surrounding uses include similar single unit dwellings to the north, south, east, and west. Applicant has been cited by code enforcement for constructing a 6-foot tall opaque privacy fence in a required yard. The applicant is requesting a variance to legitimize this fence.
Yes,
That's all.
Turn the microphone off, sir.
two off?
Yeah, just touch him.
Oh, okay.
Planning is supportive of the request. Columbus citywide planning policies, design guidelines state buffering of adjacent uses, particularly lower density residential, should use elements such as existing and new vegetation, fencing, masonry wall, mounding, orientation of residential garages, and placement of site lighting such that it avoids spilling into adjacent sites. Staff notes the consistencies between the fence and in the request and the fences throughout the neighborhood, and therefore is supportive of the request. Division of Traffic Management states that the requested variance to 3321.05 would not appear to adversely impact intersection site distance or site distance for adjacent driveways. Greater Southeast Area Commission has recommended approval of the requested variance, voting unanimously. The department's recommendation is likewise that approval. Staff recommends approval as the fence in question does not appear to pose a safety issue given its distance from a neighboring driveway. Check.
So a 6-foot fence is allowed, it's just not allowed in the clearance.
Not in a
6 foot is allowed?
6 foot, not in a required yard, and if it is gonna be in a required yard, it would have to be, not okay. It's, I think, 75, feet through, so like a chain link fence.
6 feet would actually not be allowed in the front yard. If it's driveway access. So because a neighbor has driveway access, that's why it's limited 30 inches or 75%.
If the house had a driveway first, we'd probably not be having this conversation. If the driveway were on the other side of it, meaning the other side of the house.
To the butt of the fence.
Yeah, because the vision clearance would not be.
That would be it. Well, it's because the neighbor property abuts the property with the fence.
Right,
So
so
if they had alley access,
you wouldn't be in approval if, well, we wouldn't like to be in approval if that driveway was on that other side.
It would probably pose more serious of a vision consideration, yes, not a driveway probably. I don't have sighted on the other side of it, closer to that, but let traffic speed to that.
Okay. Mr. Lundvik, do you have anything else to add to this application?
Yeah, I just wanna say this fence, as you can see, it's sticking out a little bit close to the sidewalk. But now the fence, I rebuilt it and it's kind of towards probably 20 feet, towards inside. So the clearance of vision, it's very clear, and the person of the driveway has very clear vision now. That's what I'm mentioning, because that big picture, it's old.
20 feet.
15, 20 feet inside, yeah, sir. Yes, man. Yeah, but it process takes for so long, it's a year, it's actually issue with this thing was happened, the neighbor not behind it, what the gentleman was showing, but the neighbor in front of my house, because she's just mad at me and rude, and she tries to, whatever I do in my property, she tries to, call the city. So I have an issue with her, last couple of years, but when I moved the fence back and what I did all through the stuff, I just want to have a peace with them so they don't bother me. That's the only issue. Pretty much there is no any issue now there is anything visual, because I just add, I'm a CDL class driver, professional driver, been in the industry since 2008. And I know how very important is visual, the stuff for other people. But the only issue is from other neighbors, so.
Do we have anybody up here that wants to speak about this application? Yeah, let's go forward.
questions.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah,
We have to look at the Duncan factors first, right?
you can do it before or after, just before anyone takes a vote.
Yeah.
You know, go through the Duncan factors. Thank you.
Okay. So let's go to the Duncan factors on this one, show the privacy fence. Yes, there could be a beneficial use of the property without the variance. Variance is not substantial as the resident, the pictures of the residents show that vision clearance is not blocked, it's trying to fake, has reviewed that as well. Adhere to the neighborhood, not be altered, joining properties, not suffer detriment, they would have been in the driveway. Delivery of government services would not be affected. The owner did have knowledge of the zoning restrictions. Another method other than variance, no, the property is set on the lot how it is, their backyard is just happens to be against the other property. The spirit of the intent of the zoning requirement would be observed by granting this variance, so I would be in favor of granting variance in accordance with the Duncan factors. Are we ready for the question?
Question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
I concur with the assessment of the Duncan factors, vote yes.
Mr. Maleko?
I concur as well, vote yes.
Ms. Egelhoff?
I likewise concur with the chair's analysis of the Duncan factors to vote yes.
Chair Bailey?
Yes. Variance granted.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Have a great day. I can leave, right?
Yes,
Of course.
1011 Sullivan Avenue. So can you state your name, whether you were sworn in?
Robert Ellis, yes, I was sworn in.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, there are supplemental exhibits that have been passed out to the board members and the applicant. So they're both in support and in, not. Okay. 11 Sullivan Avenue.
Hey, Jamie. I think I have a couple of those. Did you hand the other ones up?
Oh, I thought you wanted to pass them out.
Yeah, that's, we can do that too. That's fine.
11 Sullivan Avenue is located on the south side of Sullivan Avenue, approximately 90 feet east of Dakota Avenue. Site is UGA 1 Urban General District and is within the jurisdiction of the Framingham area. 0.086 acre site is currently undeveloped and zoned in the UGA 1 Urban General District. The intent of this district is to create a predominantly walkable district providing attached and detached buildings, commonly low and medium-rise buildings on smaller block and parcels. Surrounding uses include primarily single-unit dwellings. The applicant proposes to construct a 4-story, roughly 33 feet 6 inch tall parking structure with a capacity to park 56 vehicles. The structure will be dedicated parking for an off-site hotel proposed at 278 South Glenwood Avenue, which is also subject of BZA 24-1.9. To be developed approximately 700 feet to the northwest of this. The planning division is generally supportive of this proposal. Staff put the screening as presented on the roadway frontage, which has been assessed removed. It's excessive, therefore staff requests screening that is a high quality design with driving with reduced level of screening, as well as a street tree planting if possible for consistency with the Northwest Franklin plan. Lastly, staff support the proposed landscape screening on the sides of the building as it is consistent with C232 sign guidelines. Division of Traffic Management states that with the revised exhibit, as attached and with the following understanding, the Division of Traffic Management comments on the application BZA 24-167, which is this one, are resolved. In such that the parking structure will be contained within an enclosed building. There will be space to store multiple vehicles in a transfer cabinet that will allow the system to retrieve vehicles stacked behind other vehicles. However, the following items remain outstanding with respect to the proposed use of this site to satisfy the condition of the Department of Public Service support for application BZA 24-129 at 278 South Glenwood. There will still need to be a means of establishing the use of this site will be limited to parking for the use at 278 South Glenwood in a matter satisfactory to the Department of Public Service. Previous comments concerning the valet-only operation of the site for patrons in the hotel use using a loading zone at 278 South Glenwood Avenue and requests for these comments will need to be resolved. There will need to be review and verification by the Department of Public Service that the composition of various vehicle sizes accommodated within the parking structure will be satisfactory with respect to addressing the minimum parking requirements buried within BZA 24-129. The Framingham Area Commission recommends a disapproval. City staff is recommending disapproval. Staff is recommending disapproval based on the following criteria. Number one, with the Duncan standard, beneficial use without the variance. Yes, staff believes that the property can be developed with any of the allowed uses in the UGM 1 district. Number two, is the variance substantial? Staff believes yes, although the use is allowed. The requested variance to remove the required maneuvering significantly increases the intensity of use on site. The essential character of the neighborhood will be altered. Yes, introducing a commercial parking structure to a historically residential neighborhood would alter the character of the neighborhood. Governmental services affected. Yes, the only access to the structure is through the alley, which would cause congestion if the mechanical system of the parking garage fails, or if a patron is not educated on how the system works. Number five, knowledge of the zoning restriction. Yes, we believe the applicant was aware of the zoning restrictions. Predicament, feasibility without a variance. No, it would be impossible to build a parking structure for the proposed amount of space without a variance. And lastly, the spirit and intent, with substantial justice be done. No, granting the variance would be detrimental to the neighborhood, as the requested maneuvering variance yields a much more intense parking structure than would be allowed without the variance. The proposal also does not meet the walkability intent of UGN one district, since the structure was exclusively used for automobiles. This will likely increase the number of automobiles traveling in the area, which is contrary to UGN one guidelines. If approved, staff is recommending the following conditions based on the comments from the Division of Traffic Management. Number one, that the use of this site would be limited to parking for proposed hotel use at 278 South Columbia Avenue. And number two, the parking structure on the site will be operated by a valet only, and the general public will not be expected to operate the parking structure. Check.
Okay. Mr. Ellis, do you have anything to add to this application?
Yeah, and I requested an additional 90 seconds for speaking if it would be granted. I practiced this speech, it was 6.5 minutes.
Go ahead.
This request involves an area variance for maneuvering only, which is necessary due to site constraints and the technical design of the automated system itself. As confirmed by case law and Columbus zoning regulations, an area variance is justified when practical difficulties unreasonably deprive an owner of a permitted use. This standard was fully met under CC 3307-09A and Duncan v. Middlefield. The legal standard for an area variance is fully satisfied. To obtain an area variance, I must demonstrate practical difficulties only, as defined in Duncan v. Middlefield, which establishes a 7-factor test that the board is legally required to weigh. Without the variance, the property cannot be used as intended. That's the first one. This structure is a permitted use under UGN 1, and the need for maneuvering variance arises solely from physical site constraints and the automation of the parking system itself. There's no drive lanes, very common for these types of systems. The Division of Traffic Management has requested a design that eliminates a curb cut, which means we have to go more vertical with this, with a turntable-based automated system. Without the variance, the site cannot function for its intended use, depriving me of the permitted right under city law. Ohio courts have ruled that when a variance is essential to using the property for its highest and best use, which in this case is a dedicated parking structure for an off-site hotel, that it constitutes a practical difficulty. That's Keisel versus Sandusky. Number two, the variance is not substantial. This is a common variance for an automated parking structure, which do not accommodate maneuvering in the traditional sense by design. The automation eliminates traditional maneuvering, reduces congestion, emissions, and on-street parking demand, which has been, if you read the development application, a big concern was parking. So this solves that problem. Ohio law requires that the impact of a variance be weighed contextually, and here the impact is negligible. Number three, the variance will not alter the neighborhood or harm adjoining properties. The city of Columbus recently passed its new zoning district, UGN 1, shifting away from traditional parking requirements, and that allows this height. This is fully developed to development standards. We spent a long time working with city staff to make sure it did in the zoning department. The parking study, we also confirmed that there's 275 available on-street parking spaces, which means that we're trying to park 1-to-1, and we also reduced it on the hotel from 72 rooms to 56. Reducing parking strain on community and Boyce versus Village of Ottawa Hills. The court ruled that a variance should be granted when it does not substantially alter the character of an area, which was recently changed when UGN 1 was passed. Additionally, the structure incorporates brick materials to diminish noise, which is a 4 fire-rated wall, typically, which in my experience would conceal most of the system, any kind of noise it would have. The variance has no impact on governmental services. There was a comment about congestion in the alley. We have this is a non-public access garage, and so there would not be any congestion. In addition to that, we applied, and it's in the loading zone, which is in front of that. There will not be any vehicle. The only person that will bring vehicles over here is one person at a time. And there's one access to it. So the courts have ruled that when a variance does not burden city infrastructure, this factor weighs in favor of approval. Number 5, the property is under contract and zoning compliance is being addressed proactively. The site was not on the market. We reached out to every other potential landowner, calls, emails, mail, and this is the only site besides another one that was available. We offered on both, and this is the one that was accepted. I have not purchased a site, but I am ensuring zoning compliance prior to closing, which demonstrates responsible land use planning and eliminates any claim for self-created hardship. And that's Keisel, court case. The purchase is contingent on securing this variance, meaning denial would prevent this transaction and lawful use of the property. This directly responds to this board's prior request to resolve the parking issue for the pending hotel application, proving this variance is a regulatory necessity rather than a discretionary request. Number 6, no feasible alternative exists without a variance. To surface park 56 cars, we would need a 20,000 square foot parking lot, which does not exist within the parking radius, and we tried to locate that. There's no available parcels within a 750-foot proximity. And in Shelley Materials versus Daniels, the court ruled that when no viable alternative exists, denial of variance may be deemed arbitrary, a precedent that directly applies here. Number 7, the spirit and intent of the zoning code will be observed by granting the variance. The intent behind the zoning code is to provide functional, accessible, and sustainable infrastructure, and this project aligns with those variances. The variances ensures that parking demands are met without requiring a parking reduction for the hotel, and it also prevents on-street congestion. Courts have ruled that a variance should be granted when it advances the broader goals of the zoning code. That was in Duncan. The BZA must weigh all these factors and make a decision. In Cummings versus Board of Zoning, which you guys are well aware was overturned here, the BZA must have an explicit weighing of the Duncan factors on record before making a determination. If the board fails to articulate its analysis, its decision may be subject to reversal under RC 2506-04 for being arbitrary and unsupported by substantial evidence. Courts have repeatedly ruled that the BZA must provide factual findings, not general opinions, as a basis for a variance decision. And that's CBS Outdoor Inc. versus City of Cleveland, BZA. Thank you.
Couple of questions, thank you. Couple of questions for you. How do you think that the character of the neighborhood was changed by UGN one?
UGN 1, so the Franklinton plan, if you look at plannings and interpretation of it, they're generally supportive of this. They look at the land use, they look at the overlays and everything else. We spent a lot of time working with them specifically. In terms of intensity, UGN 1 increased the height district, it increases the permitted uses, it reduced parking in general. So if you read the UGN 1 standards in Title 33 or 34, in my opinion, it's this was traditionally, but because of the zone in and the goal of zone in is to allow for additional uses, parking reductions, and this height, this use is a permitted use. So in my opinion, by passing, I'm developing 2 UGN 1 standards. This wouldn't be permitted in the previous, but in the new ones, it is a permitted use, height, everything.
Even though it's surrounded by residential.
Right, yeah, I mean, that's just, in my opinion, that's my, the UGN 1 has been passed and this corridor has been labeled as a non-residential commercial that allows for higher heights, just like other ones. We've developed it to development standards.
When I looked at the illustration, could you bring it back up to the diagram? It looked as though there were 7 levels of parking. And it's a 4-story building. Is that correct? 2 basement level.
Yeah, we worked with directly with the chief zoning official. There's no floor ceiling assemblies and there's no access. So this is considered actually, there's not considered any floors inside. This is a standalone, like an open air system. It's
So 7 levels of stacking, but no floors.
There's no floors. The technical definition of the floor, it's not 7 floors. We've gone to the chief zoning official and had that determination. You can ask.
I didn't ask you that.
Okay, no problem.
There were seven levels. That's what it appears to be, correct?
There's 7, I disagree, no. I think that there's 7. Yeah, I guess it's racking. It's industrial racking. Okay. This is a zoning hearing and it's, as far as zoning, it's floors. You know, whether or not there's 7 levels has nothing to do with zoning. The determination by the zoning officials, this is
Is there going to be anybody operating this or is it fully automated?
fully automated.
So walk me through what happens.
You pull in, the valet pulls in. There's an enclosed cabin where if you look at the back here, where that red area is from the side elevation, you can see it a little bit better. There's two doors. There's one that gets inside and then there's another one to get inside. Once you get inside, it's on a turntable. The parking attendant leaves the area and the system then opens the door. It turns the car around and racks it in the appropriate, distance. So typically it's a fully automated, system. There's 5 or 6 different manufacturers that do these.
Okay, thank you.
Question about your statement about this is the highest and best use based on.
Based on development standards, valuations, we do highest and best land entitlements. So for this site, in terms of like development values and what you could put here, we look at it from a economics standpoint. Highest and best land entitlement.
We should have ready questions right now. Is there anybody here that wants to speak for or against? Okay. Choose amongst yourselves. Who wants to go first?
Hey guys, my name is Jack Chambers. I'm a resident of Franklinton.
Okay, can you actually give your address on the record?
Yep.
And state your name again, whether you were sworn in.
Jack Chambers, I was sworn in.
Your address is,
252 South Cypress Avenue.
and you
About
know approximately how far away you are from this.
I'm in between the hotel and the parking structure, so within 750 feet, probably about 500 feet is my guess. Thank you. My name is Jack Chambers. I'm a resident living directly between the proposed parking garage and the hotel intended to serve. As a member of the area commission, I've also reviewed some of the Duncan factors, and I can honestly say that none of these, except for one, apply to this proposal. What appears to be a misunderstanding in the submission is an important distinction between zoning and planning. Just because something is by right does not mean it is allowable, appropriate, or even logical in this context. The proposed structure is approximately 20 to 30 feet taller than any nearby building within blocks wedged between 2 residential homes, placing a significant and unnecessary burden on the community just to meet the needs of an unrelated or a related hotel project. The city mandated valet service and limited hours of the operation, which was stated as 8 hours during the area commission meeting.
Trying to say.
8 hours
What's 8 hours?
was the time that this garage will be staffed. So that means that combined with the cost-driven sedan-focused design of the garage suggests a lack of thoughtful integration with the neighborhood. Sedans only make up 33% of vehicles in Ohio. If you look at that design, you'd think the otherwise. This design seems to prioritize them exclusively with some SUVs in the basement. The result will likely be the majority of the parking being pushed onto the street, something that no honest parking study would show. I performed a parking study in parallel to Mr. Ellis and found that there was almost a 30% reduction in actual available parking spaces when you look at ADA marked parking spaces as well as egresses for local businesses and homes. Based on the 7 Duncan factors, the flexibility of zoning, as stated, this is one of the most flexible zoning parcels. We actually had someone in the area commission who was part of the zoning process, and she said this does not check any of those boxes. As you guys said, it is made to promote movement in and out of the city while reducing cars. This does the opposite. While the variance is limited, there's only one variance to my knowledge. They dramatically shift the use of this lot and make it a almost industrial facility. The volume of these machines is upwards of 80 decibels. Regardless of sound walling, there's still gonna be vibration. as well as heavy electrical current running through the system to power the motors. No matter the facade, this structure would severely undermine the historic and residential feel of the neighborhood, damaging the character of the neighborhood. As said, it will severely impact resident government services. I'm a resident. I use the alleyway as my only in and out to my property most days. A lot of stuff goes through there government-wise, garbage, recycling. For some people, that's the only way to access the power into their house. For some
Wouldn't
people,
it be altered?
by having the increased congestion. I think that if there's a parking garage listed, first thing I would do is drive to the parking garage for a hotel.
But the applicant stated it's not accessible by.
Correct, but the public's still gonna go if they know that there's a parking garage for this property as stated by the city. There's still gonna be congestion caused. If there's one car, then that means the guy's running 750 feet back to the hotel, or is there gonna be a second car there picking up the valet driver to drive him back to pick up another car? There's just logistics that I don't see playing out with this use. For zoning intent, the applicant has stated that he's a expert in this, and therefore he was well aware of the restrictions in this property before he entered into contract. Even though he hasn't bought it, I understand that's not the point. It's a deviation from the community vision. The West Franklinton plan, I believe, lists this as a residential because that's what it was before the house was torn down and made vacant. The only feasible Duncan vector that applies is the feasibility of the project without this variance. When considering both the Duncan factors and the developer's recent proposals, I encourage the BZA to weigh each factor carefully. In my opinion, it only satisfies one of the 7. And at a closer review of past projects, it reveals a significant issues with execution, with some appearing to be hastily developed or poorly structured. Some of the CAD data doesn't really match. There's overlaying things that shouldn't overlay. So he has some of the racks actually intersecting in real space, which he can't do, which then plays into the lot coverage and just the overall design of the building. I would recommend that the BZA take all further applications to this property and the Glenwood property with extreme attention to detail. This neighborhood deserves better planning, not just short-term solutions that create long-term problems for the community. Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next person.
My name is Anthony Corey. I came late, so I'm not sworn in. And
That's part of you swear the testimony you give tonight, be the truth, nothing but the truth, please say I do.
I do. So my involvement is I just came down here out of more of a curiosity because I'm all for development of Franklinton. So I really thought I was just going to see what was going on.
Where do you reside, sir?
I own the lot about 4 lots down from this.
Okay.
So I own the lot at Sullivan and Avalon, which is, I think, 3 or 4 lots down. So each lot's about 30 feet, so maybe 90 to 120 feet from there. So some questions that I have is that I didn't realize until I saw the photo there is, how close is this going to be to these houses? Because the one guy's porch is facing the lot.
So the zoning requirement is 3 feet?
Well, are you asking how close the structure will be to the flanking dwellings?
Right, yeah.
Well,
Not requesting a variance for side
no
yard.
side yard.
The zoning will require.
Looks like there's a small buffer between the structure and the lot lines.
Okay, so there's not much space there. And the,
It's code compliant.
okay, all right. Okay, and then the other thing, and maybe this is more of a subjective thing. The garage door, are there gonna be hours that's restricted, or do we have this loud garage door opening all hours of the night for the neighbors?
The applicant didn't speak to that, so I don't have the answer to your question. We can circle back on that.
Okay, and then the other question I have is 278 Glenwood. How far is that from this place?
I think it was said it was 700 and,
Just under 7,
yeah, it's 700 feet.
according to 6 of the.
Oh, okay, several hundred feet. So, and the other question that I had, you might not have an answer, but so there's nothing else available in the 700 feet that isn't just crammed in between two houses? That was kind of the question that I have, you know,
We can answer, so.
right. So those are the questions that I have. In my opinion, just subjective opinion, I don't think it's a very good fit for the neighborhood. I mean, and again, I want Franklinton to do well, but it's just this structure, same as between two houses. I'm just gonna say I don't like it.
I have a question for you, sir.
Yeah,
You testified that you own a lot of this cited block,
yeah, it's about 90 to 120 feet away. Yeah.
and you feel that this is gonna impact the value of your lot.
That's a tough question because the lots down there aren't worth very much money, but I don't
Do
think,
you feel it's gonna positively or negatively impact?
I would say for the short term, for sure, negatively, yeah. But I'm just looking ahead at what's gonna happen in Franklinton. I don't know what's gonna happen down there, but for the short term, I think it'd be negative. Paying for it.
Any questions? Okay, the next person who wants to speak, can you come forward?
Sorry about this. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Wait, can you state your name, whether or not you were sworn in?
My name is Benjamin Iten, ITEN. Yes, I was sworn in.
Where do you reside in relationship to the property?
My address is 1008 Bellows Avenue. My house is exactly across the street from the alley. So this structure would deposit across the street from my garage. Yes,
Okay.
right across the alley from me. So I am against this. In part, I believe that the variance to try to increase parking access to that alley creates undue congestion already into that alley that's already very hard to get through at times. Rightly or wrongly, people use that alley to get by Sullivan Avenue. And so there are many cars going back and forth down that, and it is a one-lane alley. Two cars cannot get through that alley. And so, if you were to increase the use of that alley for this parking garage, I fear that it would severely hinder our freedom and access to be able to get it in and out of our properties relatively easily. I do believe it will have, to your question earlier, sir, I do believe it will have a negative impact on our property values. Not only mine, but the neighbors around us. Catty corner to us is one of the new houses being developed by the land bank. And so we have people being brought into this neighborhood to try to create long-term wealth. And I do believe that this would negatively harm that process.
Do you have a garage
I do.
and it opens into the same alley?
Yes, sir.
Guys, I'm trying to get it down.
Yeah, so you see those three garages right there. I have that garage there, yes. Roy is to the immediate left. He's not able to be here tonight because he's just not able to get around right now in his age. I know he opposes this as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you for just come forward. Okay, please state your name, whether or not you were sworn in.
Hi, I'm Fawn Christie, and I was sworn in.
Can you tell us your address or where you live?
Yeah.
To the property?
So I live at 133 South Cypress Avenue. I'm over 750 feet. I'm just a resident of Franklinton, a concerned resident.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I am here today to express my opposition to the parking variance request for 1011 South Sullivan Avenue. While I understand that the BCA does consider the 750 feet requirement as the crow flies, I still have serious concerns about the overall validity and transparency of this proposal. Specifically, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that the property at 278 South Glenwood is currently listed as an active listing in the Columbus MLS for $930,000. It has been on the market for 230 days. This raises an important question. If the developer genuinely intends to move forward with building a hotel at this site contingent on the approval of the parking variance, why is the property still being actively marketed for sale? This suggests either a lack of commitment to the proposed development or a contingency plan that has not been disclosed to the board or the public. As community members being asked to accommodate a significant zoning change, we deserve full transparency and clarity on the intentions behind this project. Franklinton is a neighborhood of hardworking residents, and we welcome responsible development, but only when it is rooted in honesty, compliance, and respect for the existing community. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Next person that wants to speak on this application, please come forward.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christine Happel, and I was not sworn in.
You promised the testimony gives name the truth, nothing but the truth. You said I do.
I do. I live,
Go ahead.
sorry. I live at 314 Dakota Avenue. This is directly across Sullivan Avenue from the proposed structure. And I am here to voice deep concerns about these proposed variances. As a resident of Franklinton for over a decade, I was excited to hear about the rezoning process and participated heavily in the workshops that were available to community members and appreciate the opportunity to do so. And have been excited to hear about the zoning plan. So I do expect the structure of Sullivan Avenue to change and for there to be development in the neighborhood. However, I do not think that this is the development that the neighborhood needs based on those zoning restrictions, the zone in outline. I know that it's there to modernize our zoning code and to really reflect the community's current and future needs, values, and aspirations. I have no aspiration to live across from a parking structure for a private hotel. I don't think that brings value to the neighborhood, and I don't think it would contribute to any of our current needs. Does not support growth that prioritize environmental sustainability with a focus on improved transit. I know we have bus rapid transit coming to Broad to hopefully lessen the number of cars that are traveling around the city and support a more sustainable transit infrastructure. And I think from my understanding, a large part of the zone-in initiative was to increase available housing infrastructure for the city. This would be a great lot for a variety of housing, and it would be a shame to not see that it used that way. I took some time earlier today to review some of Rob Ellis's YouTube videos and was a little surprised around his understanding of zoning code. He directly said, that is what Columbus did away with. They got rid of single family homes. They got rid of zoning restrictions. And my understanding is that the rewriting of the code was an update, not to get rid of zoning restrictions, but to rather correct historical wrongdoing, to give opportunity for better infrastructure. And so just here to clarify my understanding, I suppose, and to voice support of what I know the zoning initiative to do, as well as the Duncan factors. Earlier tonight, Rob Ellis said that it's only opinion about whether or not this would have a negative impact. I think this would deeply impact the value of my property. I can't imagine inviting people over to my home if I was a seller and then having to explain a parking structure across the street, and having that be a positive thing that supports the value. And so earlier tonight, I heard Rob Ellis say he didn't want that this was opinion about how it impacts, but that he also wanted to give his opinion on how positive this parking structure was. So it also just seems to be a bit of a confusing message. Any questions? Okay, thank you for the time.
Anybody else want to speak about this? Please come forward. Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christina Campos, and I've been sworn in. I live at 1004 Bellows, so that is not quite directly behind where the structure is going to be, but close. I live next to Items, so I'm against this because this is a residential neighborhood. No, so not just because I don't want a parking lot looming over my backyard, but I'm also considering the neighborhood, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. The updated zoning, I think was for, to improve the neighborhood. And I don't think that what that Mr. Ellis is bringing to the neighborhood with a parking lot in between two homes is necessarily like the best thing for our neighborhood. Those of us who have purchased homes in Franklinton and have decided to live there and invest there have done so because we like the legacy feel of the neighborhood, the feeling of community, and I am concerned about my neighbors. Mr. Ellis is talking about a firewall for noise, but I can feel a truck driving on Sullivan. So I'm sure that we're going to be able to feel, and my neighbors who are going to be adjacent to the property, they will be able to feel the vibrations every time that the machinery starts to move. I know that the zoning code was also updated for the betterment of the community, and although that a parking lot is allowed, it's not in the spirit of the updated zoning. It's not new housing. It's not a store or a business that would benefit the community. And I'm obviously, I just don't want to have this type of structure near our homes, in between our homes.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak about this? Please come.
Hi, my name's Derek Christie. I live at 133 South Cypress Avenue, as well as Fawn.
You were sworn in?
Yes, I was. So, really, me coming up here is just to kind of lend my voice to the disapproval of this. A lot of the points that I have written down have been made by other people. But the one thing that I did write down that I showed my wife Fawn and kind of chuckled about is throughout this whole process, Mr. Ellis has been very dismissive of community members, the area commissions. Just basically every interaction has not been a very positive one. And when it comes down to it, and it was throughout his speech today, the only thing he ever falls back on is going back and reciting case law. He did it at the city council meeting when 278 South Glenwood, where that got shot down, voted down there. He just keeps referring back to the case law stuff. Nothing that he actually says or does will bring any benefit to the community. It makes no sense to put a parking garage in between two houses, updated zoning codes or not. I don't think there's anybody that would think that a parking garage between two houses in a residential neighborhood makes any sense at all. So that's all.
Yep. Thank you. Anybody else want to speak? Please. you're on the fence about speaking, once I go back to the applicant, I won't come back to the audience, so you gotta say it now.
Okay, hi,
State your name, please, and when you were sworn in.
I was not sworn in. My name is Anita Kwan.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you give will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Where's your address?
Three,
Can you close to the mic,
oh, yeah.
please?
I'm at 314 Dakota Avenue, so I'm also right across from this parking lot that Rob Ellis is proposing. I wanted to echo the sound transmission that this garage could bring. Currently, right now, I can hear so much road noise because Sullivan Avenue is a very busy street. And so having giant machinery right across the street is only just going to make things louder. And right now, homes with just regular insulated walls with drywall, STC levels, which are sound transmission. I forgot what the C stands for, but basically it's barely blocking out road noise right now. And so homes with this certain level of STC is not going to block giant machinery noise. So I just wanted to say that this is just not healthy for the environment of the neighborhood. And it just really blows my mind to look across the street and imagining something like a parking structure in between those homes. I'm just going to feel so bad for the neighbors that are going to be right next to it and surroundings. So.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Jamie Iten, I-T-E-N. I'm married to Ben Iten. He previously spoke. I live at 1008 Bellows Avenue. I have been sworn in. I didn't plan to speak, but I just want to add my voice to what has been said previously, that our property is directly behind where the structure would be built. It would definitely impact our property values. It would definitely affect our quality of life with this looming structure, the lights that would be required, the sound of the machinery, the door, the congestion of the cars. All of this would impact negatively our neighborhood, a neighborhood that we moved to because we wanted community and a neighborhood, not to live behind this structure that would negatively impact us. My other concern is that, you know, this is a business venture. It is a gamble. It is not a home that could be easily bought and sold between owners. He is using this as a business venture, and businesses often go under. This isn't a structure that would easily translate to another business. If this hotel is built and this hotel fails, it would be a structure that would then be left, that would be difficult to sell. It would be difficult to be taken over, and would potentially be a place that would just sit there empty, inviting crime that could also, you know, be increased as the structure in current use if it was being used. That's definitely a concern, that having a structure filled with cars in this area, potentially unmanned, would increase crime. But all of these concerns, I echo everything that everyone else said about it not fitting the spirit of the neighborhood, and it not, you know, it will definitely negatively impact us. That is all.
Anybody else? On your sign.
Yeah.
No one else wants to speak? Okay, I'll invite the applicant to come back.
I have a question for Dana. I know this is maybe a little unique, but the variance is for maneuvering. And it's been, testimony has been provided that it's on So generally, when we make variances for maneuvering, it's for safety and being able to navigate, right? So I guess I'm wondering, how does maneuverability factor into something that's automated?
I mean, I believe that's just a function of the zoning code that when spaces are stacked in like that, when they don't have the adequate maneuvering space, to be maneuvered by a driver, that would require variance to set up that type of parking.
Well, in addition to that, the applicant has testified that there are no floors. So like, what are you maneuvering? I mean, it's effectively just a mechanism that spins around. Right? So what is the maneuverability? There's no surface on which they're maneuvering.
I mean, they would be, there's has to be some type of structure for them to, whether if it's not called a floor, it's some type of frame of some sort to, yeah, to place the cars in the stack or however.
So the thought of a variance for this suggests that there are safety concerns potentially.
Yes, and at least to speak on our concerns are really the functionality and the usability to serve use. And I know one of the applicant or the speakers had spoke about the time when it would be used, and so that's an outstanding question that we have not been able to resolve on how it will be utilized for hotel use. Presumably would be later evening, early morning, when people would be coming and going. That would appear to conflict with nature of the neighborhood as far as concerns related to use for that. So, but I guess back to maneuvering, it's better understanding the usage of that, because that would be our concern than just the physical space needed to maneuver vehicles in an automated system.
Okay, and I guess my last comment or question is, as we evaluate variances, we look at the number of variances, the intensity of the variance. Is it reasonable to say that this is intensive from the standpoint that now we're talking about 56 instances of maneuverability?
I mean, I think you could say that. I think I think this overlaps a lot with land use. I mean, it's not so much a traffic or transportation that lead into a land use and issue there. So it's all intertwined. But purely from a transportation perspective, I think there are ways to make this type of system work in the to better utilize certain area.
Okay, thank you.
One second. So before we get into the questioning of the applicant, I do want to note on the record that we do have several letters from both in support of the use, the structure, and several in opposition. I will point out on the record and to direct the board members to consider how you are weighing these letters, both in terms of, are they speaking to the variance at issue? Because some of these letters spoke to the hotel, and that's not what we're seeking to look at. And some of these letters are from out-of-state individuals. That don't have a connection with the project. When you are looking at those, please keep that in mind. I just want to note that the record that they are here. And I also want to ask the board members that will alert you that I will go with the Duncan factors, but I want you to speak on the record first as to the Duncan factor or total that is most, that is weighing the heaviest for your votes. What do you think about to dictate my thoughts or these are you find what we can have?
Can I reply to the comments from?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Okay, so now back to the applicant and some follow questions. I can start, somebody else can start. Questions?
Madam Chair, before you do that, I would just like to echo for the board members, everything the chairwoman said, and I will add specifically on Duncan factor number 3 about the essential character of the neighborhood. Just to remind the board members, I'm sure you're aware, but for the record, we're talking about a single maneuverability variance, and a reminder, as some of the speakers pointed out, that a parking garage is an allowed use in the area. So take that into consideration when you're deliberating on the record. You're looking at a maneuverability variance.
I would agree with you, and that's a very linear approach. But I don't think that that standard in particular, are you suggesting that we maybe don't consider that standard at all?
I'm saying when you come to that standard, consider all the Duncan factors and consider them on the record. But for that standard in particular, a reminder that the parking garage itself is an allowed use in this area. What you're evaluating is the impact of the maneuverability variance on the essential character of the neighborhood, just for that standard.
Okay, so I got another question.
But hold on that. But the usage as a garage is not feasible without this parking automated structure. So how can you separate those two things?
You may,
Because we can't analyze maneuverability as affecting one neighborhood.
right. Right, so you could look at, how the variance is going to have certain impacts in your view. Sorry if I've muddied the waters, but all my point is, for the board's consideration, is that the parking garage itself is an allowed use in the area. Maneuverability, of course, is going to have downstream effects if you grant the variance, so you can take these into account, right? Didn't mean to dissuade you from weighing those factors. Right?
So I'll speak on that in my first question on the maneuverability. So I am concerned about your testimony that it's only manned by a valet, one. Which means what for a hotel guest? Like, I guess what happens to somebody who pulls up and they don't want to park in there, they don't want to wait for the valet? Where is that forcing people to then park on her? Because if against maneuverability, I cannot maneuver my car myself. I have to wait for your valet person to maneuver it. And so if I don't want to do that, then what do I do?
When we started this, we had to conduct a traffic study, and we did it to the city standards. It's 275 spaces on the street. This is 56 parking spaces. So to answer your question, there's a loading zone. You can leave your car in the loading zone, which means the valet will come around and pull it around. The maneuvering variance is only because there's no drive lanes. So because there's not 20 feet of maneuvering inside. It's not a maneuvering from there. It's not that it's not self-parked. The only variance is because of inside the system, there's not space that's required for cars to move around. These aren't manned vehicles. These are racked by a machine. So when you pull out, the maneuvering variance isn't for coming in and out of the garage. It's a pull in, pull out. We have 20 feet of maneuvering to get into the garage. So I guess to answer your question, there's plenty of on-street parking. There's probably at least 200 spaces or 100 spaces on Glenwood, all the way up and down, including right in front, all the way up and down on the side of the street. And the Division of Traffic Management requested a traffic study when we got started, or parking study.
So let me turn it over to Dan to speak on this point, this review.
So a parking study was performed, and that was in conjunction, not with this variance, I believe it was for the initial, rezoning application that was submitted for 278 South Glen. And there were several different proposals on that, but that, it was not, there was a parking study performed, both reviewed by the Division of Building Park Services. However, there was never a formal determination of recommendation on that going forward, based on the proposal that we have in campus.
But was there, are you validating his statement as to there's 175?
275, yeah.
275 spaces available within what radius?
750 feet.
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but there were some on availability. However, there were, you know, different ways of looking at that with the demand. So,
But it's your professional opinion that what? What conclusion are you stating on the record on that?
that there are some on-street availability. But the
Some
question was,
or enough?
With the current proposal, no, there was not a recommendation from our Division of Building Park Services to support the project with no parking, with no, parking facility, with zero parking provided with the hotel or the residential use. There was not adequate parking within the radius.
Okay.
Sort of without some type of mitigating, parking lot or parking structure.
Okay. And
I have a question to that.
go ahead.
One of the people who gave testimony in the community that sits on the area commission had indicated that counting those spaces, let's say it's 275 based on the testimony of the applicant. When you traditionally look at those numbers, are they taking into consideration while they be public parking spaces, handicap spaces, spaces that are allocated for other reasons? Do they take those into that calculation as well?
I believe they do. I mean, the information is reviewed by a member of the Division of Building Park Services, and they look at the streets and take a look at the parking availability or lack thereof, and then factor in the amount of available parking spaces on the street. So I believe that would be factored into. I don't think that is completely ignored.
Okay, thank you.
Reply to the similar testimony.
Okay, so let me get through our questions first, so that we can get to. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a general question. So I'm confused about the side yards. This building's 28 feet wide, it's not a 30-foot lot. So doesn't it need a side yard?
Not in the UGR. Again, it's the mixed use district that don't have our sites.
1 foot.
On either side?
6 inches, maybe 12.
6 inches?
Yeah, to a foot. We could go to 0.
And I also noted that the height of it is not 35. If it's 48.
Yeah, we can be 48 in the front, 35 in the back with the step up. It's 4 stories in the front, and if it's a budding residential district, it's 35. So it's blended.
I was just saying that this says 430, 33 feet, 6 inches tall, it's 4 stories don't matter. 48.
Yeah.
Which is basically a 4 or 5 story.
But they're not seeking a variance.
No, just to clarify, 48 feet is permitted.
Questions? Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. There was a comment about, being on the market. That was, I had an email that said my agent, I texted him, he said that he had forgot to take it down. But we already have everything set up. We're developing the hotel and this, if it gets approval.
But you said it was, but you testified earlier that it was a contingency, that you weren't gonna purchase that property until you got this. approval.
That's right. It's a contingency in the contract. Yeah.
So that would be reasonable for it not to be sold.
Yeah, I mean, there was comment about it being on the market, and our intent is to, try to satisfy the parking needs. There was yeah, it's fine. There was, some comments about property values and other things. The courts held in Tepper versus zoning board BZA and Hott versus BZA that speculative claims about property value impacts are insufficient to oppose a variance. The courts have emphasized concrete evidence from expert testimony and factual evidence is required for that. And on the record, if there are statements about property values decreasing, I would request expert testimony or actual factual evidence that would support that.
So we wouldn't.
I know, but that would be of other people, if there's other comments.
Comments about on the record. That we would not be requiring residents to bring their factual evidence of decreased property value to this hearing tonight. Because that's not stated in any notice that we give to them.
I will only say that I believe Mr. Ellis's recitation of case law is accurate.
And yeah, I guess that can be disputed if we want.
It means that if declining property values, there were some questions about property values from Mr. Jones. If part of the in writing testimony, or as you stated explicitly, if any weight is given based on decreasing property values, it has to be supported by factual evidence and expert testimony. That's the only reason I have to put everything on the record if we appeal, which is why I made that comment.
Let me be clear. I asked for an opinion. I didn't ask for facts.
No problem.
And that's what we delivered.
There was a question about the property values as well. This is a maneuvering variance, and as the city's attorney is, the question is, by granting the maneuvering variance, what is the impact? It's not on the use or any of the other some of the other things that were brought up, noise. This is closed at night. There's no facilities running. It's only open 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So there wouldn't be any noise, and we can do 10 p.m. The operating hours are flexible. So there's the comments about that. And this is a maneuvering variance. It's a minor modification that, in my opinion, has unlikely to have significant effects on the neighborhood. And I think the congestion of the cars is another comment, but it's physically impossible to have congestion because there's only one vehicle that'll be pulled in at a time to the parking structure. So there's been repeated comments about congestion in the alley, but there's only one person that will be operating and driving vehicles into this garage.
Can you provide any evidence of the sound impact?
What impact? The sound?
The mechanism?
Yeah, the mechanism, it's a brick structure and it's going to be open during daylight hours, which are
Do you have
permitted.
any factual evidence?
On the decibel?
Sound levels of the mechanism?
And it wouldn't be irrelevant in a zoning hearing.
It absolutely can be, because I've described these as 56 instances of maneuverability, which will directly go to sound. So they're absolutely relevant to the maneuvering.
The sounds would only be permitted during the day.
I didn't ask that.
What's the question?
I'm not gonna ask the question again. So you asked and answered.
Why do you think that the sound would only be happening during the day?
It's a closed facility. We only have, the valet will only be staffed during during the day. There will be an,
10 p.m.
yeah, so during typical quiet hours of the residential areas, I'm pretty sure, I think it's
10 p.m. is not during the day.
6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm saying during the day, you can have noise. It's permitted, you can.
But I'm saying, you said it was going until 10 p.m. That
said 11.
Just answer, what time is it operating until?
We haven't set operating hours.
You said earlier.
But it would be during staffed hours, and it's normally during check-in times, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., up till closing, check-ins at 3, 4 o'clock.
Hotels are open 24 hours a day.
Not the brand that we're looking at. It would close at 11 PM.
So then that's your out.
It's like service. That's right.
So
But
then,
parking, we would,
so then that's when the mechanism is.
no, we would stop the parking before then. We would stop the parking so there wouldn't be access. With an emergency, you could access it.
Who could access it? Because you said it wasn't.
If someone has an emergency and needs to access their vehicle, there will be
Be able to access it.
a valet attendant would have to come and open and get the car out for them. There's no public access. That was a request made by the Division of Traffic and Mobility.
Who's going first? I can state mine.
With respect to the Duncan factors, the maneuvering variance request, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance for maneuverability, absolutely yes. Whether the variance is substantial, in my opinion, when you multiply the variance times 56 parking spaces, which effectively would be the case, as the city has identified, maneuverability is for each interchange effectively. So the variance is substantial in that regard, in my opinion. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance, my answer again is yes, because it's 56. 56 areas of detriment, instances of detriment. Whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, perhaps I can't speak to that. There's been inconsistent testimony provided as to the hours of operation, the number of people that will operate. Everything seems to be a moving target, so I can't adequately answer whether or not there would be, whether it would cause a negative impact for governmental services such as access for fire trucks, access for anybody that's going through and emptying trash cans from city services. Whether the property owner purchased the property with the knowledge of the zoning restriction. The current owner absolutely did. And it looks like it was purchased in 2024, just prior to the new zoning code being activated. Whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some other method other than a variance, I would suggest no. Whether the spirit and the intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed, substantial justice done by granting the variance, I would reflect on some testimony that was provided this evening that while it was very subjective viewpoint of the zoning change, I believe that this does not meet the spirit nor the intent behind the zoning change to this new zoning district with this request that's being proposed. So with that being said, and the majority of the Duncan factors not being favorably met, favorably for approval, I vote no.
So we haven't called the vote yet, so. Yeah.
Just one clarification, we don't own the site. We have it under contract, we don't own the site, so there was some, you said that we owned it, we don't have, we don't.
I said the current owner.
Okay.
After reviewing the Duncan factors, I feel that the site, yes, could have a return other than giving them the variance, and still could have a reasonable return on the property. I believe the variance is substantial. My biggest concern is I think it does affect the essential character of the neighborhood. I'm not sure about the government services. It seems like it will not be affected. The owner did have knowledge of the zoning restrictions, I believe. I don't think this could be done to obviate it through any other method other than a variance at this point. And I believe that the spirit intent of the would not allow something like this.
Thank you. I think my colleagues did a great job going through the Duncan factors, which just to add to it. I likewise feel that the property in question will yield a reasonable return. And there could be a beneficial use of the property without the variance. I likewise feel that the variance is substantial. The central character of the neighborhood will be substantially altered by it. Whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery services or not actually weigh that in favor of the variance. Whether the property owner purchased with the knowledge, again, I'm not sure, so I'll weigh that in favor. Whether the property owner predicament can be prevented through some other method other than variance, I believe so. And the most important factor, which I think kind of puts me toward the way I'm going to vote, is whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement will be observed. I do not believe that would be the case if we granted a variance.
Okay, so I will go through the Duncan factors as well. I do think that the property could be developed without this variance and beneficial use. I agree that the variance is substantial. I think that maneuverability could be 6. But the time of day and the usage required for the maneuverability is substantial. I think that the essential character of the neighborhood is altered. I think adding a commercial parking structure to this historically residential neighborhood does alter the character. And I don't think that that was the spirit and intent of the UGN1 district changes. I don't know about the knowledge of the zoning restriction, whether they were read them beforehand, nor do I know about government services being affected. I think that it is impossible to build a parking structure on this lot. I don't say that. You say with 56 spaces, parking structure without a variance. I do find the applicant's testimony uncredible. I feel like it was inconsistent testimony. It seems like it was providing opportunistic answers that would lead to a yes vote. And impressed on some of those answers, we were getting different answers. So I am ready for the questions.
Madam Chair, if I could interject and be involved for just a second, would you mind entertaining a motion for the adoption of findings of fact, beginning with Mr. Jones's recitation of the Duncan factors?
Okay.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Malaka?
No.
Wait, finding of facts.
Yeah.
So board members, if you agree with what Mr. Jones, Ms. Egelhoff, Mr. Malaka, and Chair Palmer Bailey stated in their recitation of the Duncan factors by way of factual observations, you would vote yes. Can we have that again? So,
Mr. Malaka?
Yes.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes.
Thank you.
And now that we vote on, okay, now I'll accept the motion for whether the variance will be granted or not.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Egelhoff?
No.
Mr. Jones?
I have to say that as a person who is pro-development, pro-progressive opportunity in the city of Columbus, I am not satisfied that this meets the mark, especially considering what options are available here. So I'm going to vote no.
Mr. Malacco?
No.
Chair Plummer Bailey?
No. Variance is denied.
Can I just ask one question? On our hotel, I already said this to the traffic management, but we can probably reduce our counts on the rooms and move parking within totally concealed in a manufacturing district. And so I think that's the direction that we're gonna head, maybe. So we'll go back and be back maybe in a month.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's good.
Okay, so can we let's take a 5-minute time break.
So.
Do you mind if I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, what's your name?
My name's Scott.
Hey.
I saw you about it.
They left.
Yeah. You guys have if she goes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm at too far. You reverse. Okay. Sorry. That's not all. Big right stairs. Yeah.
Next, I'm gonna you're reading how it maybe gets to the changes to this. That'd be great. I didn't go as intense as I would. I didn't know. But this is an abuse of the system. Switching of plans. I see that somehow Aldo. It's a carousel system. So I'm assuming that sticks into the car and the bump it or it's property. Yeah, I just. I don't know. One, where do I see? Or request those? I just wanted to, feels good to get community feedback or want to as the meeting shares.
Let us see where.
Wait.
Yeah. The other one is not. Which.
Okay, okay, well, I just wanted to, like, I'll get with you guys, with you guys, because hopefully, one of the as soon as possible, members read standardized and how we get that stuff out there. See with that, how you guys manage things changes. I appreciate it, thank you guys. See you guys when this comes next time.
Yeah. You want to. Both sides. I was sitting. So basically. Still. Well, yes. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, we're gonna reconvene. 518 West First Avenue.
Kevin Joseph, I have been sworn.
Is that microphone on? Does it sound like that?
Kevin Joseph, I've been sworn.
Can you sign your name on the?
Yep.
518 West First Avenue is located on the north side of West First Avenue, approximately 30 feet west of Oregon Avenue. For the Harrison West Society and the existing zoning is R2 residential district. The 0.09 acre site is currently undeveloped. Surrounding uses include a mix of single unit and multi-unit dwellings to the north, south, east, and west. The applicant proposes to construct a 2-unit dwelling with detached garage. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the number of parking spaces required from 4 to 2. Planning supports this proposal. Columbus citywide planning policies, guidelines, and recommendations recommend support for parking reductions on factors such as the extent requested, presence of on-street parking, pedestrian accessibility, mixed-use development pattern of the area, and others. Staff note the presence of on-street parking and proximity to other modes of transit consistent with CDP guidelines. And concur with the applicant's statements in support and therefore are supportive. The Division of Traffic Management has no comments, and the Harrison West Society has recommended approval, voting 6-4 in favor. City Department's recommendation is likewise that of approval. Staff recommends approval as the reduction in parking is mitigated by the increased housing density, the walkability of the surrounding neighborhood, and the existence of alternative transit options within walking distance of the property. Check.
Okay. Joseph, do you have anything to add to the application?
I do not.
Why do you remember why the commission, or I should say the society, had 4 no votes?
Yeah, so I couldn't go to the meeting, but my colleague could. Their biggest concern seemed to be that we were building a duplex, which would lend itself to use as an Airbnb more likely than a single family home. We have no intention of using it as an Airbnb. I think it was just a hypothetical that kind of got in a lot of people's minds. The concern did not seem to be related to the parking variance.
Okay. That's all. Is there anybody here to speak about this application? Okay, if you have any questions from the board? Okay, are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Open up.
Oh, okay. I looked over too late. It's looking. Okay, so the property in question, is would yield a reasonable return without the variance. I don't consider the variance substantial here. I think the central area of the neighborhood would not be altered. I don't think it's adversely affecting delivery of government services. Have no knowledge about the property owners, knowledge of the zoning restriction. Don't think that we could alleviate this particular without the variance. And I think the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement is still observed. Substantial justice is to be done by granting the variance. And are we now ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question been called, let's call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
I concur with the chair's assessment of the Duncan factors and vote yes.
Mr. Malacca?
I too concur with the chair's assessment, we vote yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
I agree with myself, vote yes. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
2388 Hallkirk Street. Please, sir, can you state your name, whether or not you were sworn in?
I am Craig Tuthill. I'm here representing Carla Powell.
You all.
She'd asked me to come. I'm an agent on the forum.
You are an agent on the form? Because you are a.
She was,
He's on the.
Oh, I see.
I am sworn in.
Well, no, I don't see.
I have,
Yes.
oh,
What's your name, sir?
I'm sorry.
What's your name?
I am Craig.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yes, I see it now. Okay.
2388 Falkirk Street is located at the northwest corner of Falkirk Street South and Edinburgh Lane, as part of the Northland Community Council in part, zone R2 residential. The site is built with a single unit dwelling, surrounding uses are primarily single unit dwellings. The applicant was cited for having a fence over 2.5 feet tall with 100% opacity in the clear region triangle. The variance is being requested to legitimize the location of the existing fence on a corner lot. Funding supports the Northland area plan, recommends buffer strips can include a combination of plant material, masonry walls, fence, or mounting. The proposal is consistent with these guidelines and staff concur with the applicant's statement and support, and therefore are supported. The Division of Traffic Management had no comments, and the Northland Community Council recommended approval with a vote of 15-0. Staff recommends approval. Staff notes that the variance is to legitimize a fence that has been existing for over 20 years and is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. Chair.
Sounds like this is a current issue with fences on corner lots. I don't have any questions for that. Do we have a picture of the property behind, like?
This is taken from that driveway of the property behind it, so that would be, this pic, the last picture is taken from this driveway.
And where is the fence? Right up against their driveway?
We're in the car right now, so
Okay, so
this is
that's-
beyond the driver's window. But,
They have vision.
yeah, and that's not anymore.
Okay. Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this application?
Madam Chair, I would usually speak, but I think staff has very actively presented our finding as well. So I'd like to yield the time. If questions, I'm here. Thank you.
Do you have anything to add to this application, Mr. Tuttle?
Do I need to?
Just do whatever you heard, anything that you wanted to clarify or add something that wasn't said, that's it. Okay. I don't have any questions for this applicant. Anyone else?
No.
Okay, so the Duncan factors, the property could yield a reasonable return without the variance. However, the variance is not substantial. There is still clear vision clearance even with the opaque fence. The variance should not adversely affect the delivery of government services. Sounds like this fence has been there for over 20 years. I don't know the ownership of the property.
She purchased it as a HUD home in 2005, and the fence was there for 10 years prior to that.
We have maps that go 1999, it's there.
So so property owner felt like this was a code compliant fence. The predicament cannot be obviated through another method other than a variance or to take fence down. And I think the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed, substantial justice be done by granting the variance. Are you ready for a question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, let's call roll.
Mr. Maleka?
I concur with the chair and vote yes.
Mr. Jones?
I too concur and vote yes.
Chair Pound Bailey?
Yes, variance granted.
Thank you.
Okay, 521, 611, and 659, Marion Road.
You'll have to talk now. Large parcels.
This is the same street.
Okay, can you state your name and whether or not you were sworn in?
My name is John Ingwerson, and I have not been sworn.
Okay, sir, about you?
Good evening. My name is Jim Gilbert, and I have been sworn.
You promise the testimony you give tonight with the truth, nothing but the truth, please state I do.
I do.
You can go ahead and sign the paperwork while we're here for the city.
PZA 25-002 for 521, 611, 659 Marion Road is located on the south side of Performance Way, approximately 1,800 feet west of Elm Creek Drive. It is zoned M manufacturing and located in the South Side Area Commission.
The 30.4 acre site consists of 3 contiguous parcels developed with a salvage yard and accessory offices. Surrounding uses are similar industrial uses to the north, east, and west, and rail line to the south. The applicant proposes to bring an existing recycling facility with a salvage storage lot into compliance and requesting variances to reduce the minimum number of parking spaces required for 521 Marion Road from 63 spaces to 50 spaces, to reduce the aisle width from 20 feet to 0 feet to allow double stacked parking at the rear of 521 Marion Road, to reduce the setback for open storage from 20 feet to 0 feet from interior lot lines to allow up to 10 inoperable vehicles to be stored on site, to provide a 14-foot setback for a 24,000 square foot building along Marion Road and an 8-foot perimeter fence, to allow outdoor storage of materials to be piled to a height of 17 feet, and special permits to allow a portable building to remain on site permanently to act as a dwelling unit for a resident security person, as well as to permit the continuation of a salvage business for 529, 611, and 659 Marion Road. The applicant is responding to a code violation order issued on May 7th, 2015. This property was subject of BZA 16-027 to resolve this outstanding code violation order and was approved on February 27th, 2018. Planning has no comment on the proposed special permit and notes that the proposal is to legitimize existing conditions. The Southside Plan and Columbus Citywide planning policies, design guidelines note that areas recommended for industrial uses should include the installation of screening and landscaping to minimize impacts. Additionally, C2 states that parking lots should be screened from view from public right-of-way and adjacent development, and that screening should include walls, mounds, trees, shrubs, and/or landscaping. Staff note the proposed opaque fence on the northwestern parking lot with slats on the front and fabric screen on the rear is consistent with plan guidelines. Therefore, planning is in full support. Division of Traffic Management informed the applicant that a right-of-way dedication of 40 feet from center left Marion is required and wanted additional information on parking areas for customers, information on the existing gates and the location of the tandem parking. These comments have been resolved. Columbus Southside Area Commission recommends approval of the request by a vote of 9-0. Staff can recommend approval of the request since it will legitimize existing conditions and will resolve a pending zoning code violation order. Furthermore, part of the request is continuation of variances and a special permit that are previously approved.
Do you have anything to add to this application?
Unless I'm here to answer any questions you might
Answer
have.
any questions.
Use the mic.
The 17-foot piles. Where are they?
Can I can point it out pretty clearly. The 17-foot piles are pallets. And they were granted a previous variance in 16 through 18. They are 150 feet back from Marion Road, the right of way. So in this area, the pallets, load in a truck, they can take 2 stacks and get them in, and it puts it above outside storage limit of 10 feet. So we applied for 17 feet back in 16, and we've been living under that agreement since then.
So what are we doing with 3392.10? Why is it here if it's already approved?
Because when you come back in with a site plan and new variances, the old variances have to be
Reapproved.
The previous site plan was stamped, so the variances and previous special permit were tied to that site plan. Since the site has changed and is now being updated, he was informed that all of those variances and special permit need to be included on this request for them to go forward.
Okay, thank you.
So is that the same area you're pointing to where it says the storage setback for open storage from 20 feet to 0 feet? material lot lines? Is that the same place, that same storage?
Yes and no. I can point that out again. Um, I've stepped in it many times. So here's 521, here's 611 and 659. And they were all separate parcels. They haven't been combined. Since they haven't been combined, you have to treat this like a different thing. And have a 20-foot setback this way on each side of that property line. But since this has been operating as a single unit, we're going to be able to take advantage of that 40 feet.
They have a condition on that to combine parcels?
I'm sorry.
Why has the parcels not been combined?
There's a variety of reasons. The most important one is that they were all purchased separately by the owner, and there has been offers to each one of them separately, and he did not want to put himself in a position where he would not be able to sell 659 separately, or 521 separately, or even 611. A lot of it's economic because it would change the dynamics. It doesn't change the dynamics of the usage of it, but if we combine them and then someone wants to buy essentially 659, then we would have to go back through the entire process to separate them again. And that's primarily the reason that we haven't combined them, plus the city officials that we've been working with haven't really suggested that we combine them.
Well, the interesting fact for us is this will follow the parcels until such time as you decide to change the site plan. And if he were to sell it, we've already given forgiveness of these buffers, if you will, for each of the owners. So that's why it makes more sense, again, very superficially looking at it, to have it at the time.
Yeah, it just seems like your language here suggests that this is not a permanent operation. However, you're asking for a variance to allow portable buildings to remain on the site permanently. So it's almost like a little conflicting to me that.
Two different things.
That you're not willing to say this is a permanent use like this.
The building that you're referencing is for security. That a security person would be utilizing that building if the usage of the property changes. To give you the best example, John showed you where the pallets are. We lose 20 to 60 pallets a day without security, because people come in, they cut the fence at the back of the property. We repair the fence weekly. They come in, they cut the fence, they're gone. The railroad track is back there. There's no way to trace it. We've had video cameras and things, but it takes them 5 minutes to come in, pick the pallets up, load them up in a truck, gone. Then they come back and sell them to us the next day as pallets that need to be rehabilitated because they break them or whatever, and then they bring them back to us and we give them the price for a pallet to come in to be repaired, and then they steal it, and it's a circle. So it was security there. We have a golf cart, and the guy can drive around, and he has been able to cut some of the theft down. Primarily, it's the pallets. Sometimes there's other bundles there that are taking cardboard and things like that, but primarily it's the pallets. And the building that we're talking about is merely basically an office building for him to operate out of it in the evening time. So if that parcel's sold, whoever purchases it may not need it, or they might need it. So it would be there for that option. But if they don't need it, or if we can figure out a better way to secure the property, we don't need it. But right now, that is our best option. It's worked the best, at least on an interim period.
If I may, the language there is, you can't have a temporary, there are certain parts of the code that talk about a temporary structure, which is an RV in this case. how long it can be there. And on advice of staff, the word permanent has to be there. But the other part of the code that's interesting is that in manufacturing areas that are special licensed junk and salvage yards, you're allowed to have a night watchman's residence on the property. So this is how do we do that without building a house? We apply for a variance to have the trailer, act as that office.
Is there anybody here that wants to speak again, for or against this application? Does the board members have any other questions? Okay, so I will take us through the dumping factors for the variances and the dumping factors for the special permit, which is the impound lots and dark salvage. So first for the parking, maneuvering, storage, stacking, will the property be able to reasonable term? Adopt the variances, no. The variances, are substantial, but only because this is an existing usage that has established operations on the property. I don't think that the character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered by these variances. Again, this operation has been ongoing for a time. Would not adversely affect delivery government services. The property owner has not recently purchased this property. This is a re-application, so to speak. Can we obviate this predicament to methods other than variance? I don't think so, but I think the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting these variances. Let's call the vote on the variances. You ready to call the question?
Call the question.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Jones? I would echo the chair's. I'll echo the chair's assessment of the dumping factors, but add that variance 3363.41 could actually be resolved by way of combining the parcels instead of a variance. Regardless, the majority of dumping factors are being met in order to approve, so I say yes. Mr. Malika?
I concur with the chair's assessment, vote yes.
Chairman Bailey?
Yes. Okay, so as far as the special permit to allow an impound lot, junkyard, or salvage yard. The factors are substantial detriment to the public good without substantial impairment of the general purpose and intent of the zoning district in which the use is proposed to be located. I don't mind if there be a substantial detriment to the public good here. And the intent and purpose of the zoning code, which would safeguard the public safety and welfare, I think would be met here. I think that's the only. Yeah, the other one is about relocation. Expansion.
And then if you look at 3307.06 A in the last clause about significant incompatibility with the character of the neighborhood. Yeah. if you could-
Yeah, so no, since this is an M district, this is compatible with the character of the neighborhood in which it's located. Are you ready to call the question?
Call the question.
Please call the roll on the special permit.
Mr. Malika?
I concur with the chair, vote yes.
Mr. Jones?
I too concur with the chair on her assessment and vote yes.
Chairman Bailey?
Yes. Special permit grant.
Thank you much. Have a great evening.
2097, Thistlewood Drive.
2097, Thistlewood Drive is located on the south side of Thistlewood Drive, approximately 515 feet east of Lake Brook Boulevard. It's zoned LSR, Limited Suburban Residential. It's located in the far northwest coalition. The 0.23 acre size developed with a single unit dwelling and with an attached 2-car garage. Surrounding uses are primarily other single unit dwellings and a golf course to the south. The applicant proposes to construct a 501 square foot addition, including a 3rd-car garage space, and is requesting variance to reduce the western side yard setback from 5 feet to 4 feet. Planning is supportive of the proposal. The Northwest Plan recommends the scale and proportion of additions should be compatible with the principal and nearby structure. Staff note the proposed site plan and elevations are consistent with plan design guidelines, therefore planning is supportive of the proposal. The Division of Traffic Management requested clarification on maneuvering for a proposed parking space and whether the driveway would be expanded in the right way. These comments have been resolved. The Far Northwest Coalition of Columbus recommends disapproval of the request by a vote of 0 to 3. And staff can recommend approval of this request since the addition is cited appropriately and the variance requested is negligible. The proposed addition will provide the property owner with much needed living and storage space.
And I would like to direct you guys to a letter that was sent in by a neighboring property owner that was included in your packet.
Okay, can you state your name, whether or not you're sworn in?
Brenda Parker, I have been sworn in.
Okay, do you have anything else to add to the application?
The owners of the house are a family with children, and the pain points for them are they needed more garage storage. It's a very small garage. The second floor is also very small, so they wanted to look at doing a new primary suite on the first floor. They have a 3-season room at the back that they're converting to a bedroom, and then they're going to add a primary bath and a primary closet. The goal with the garage addition on the side is they'd like to get an 8-foot door so that they can pull one of their cars in there. The way the steps are located in that garage, when they pull a car into that leftmost space, they kind of run into the steps. So if they could get a car into the addition as well as the next space, that frees up kind of storage and movement area. In order to get the 8-foot door and the bracing pan, the 2-foot bracing panel next to that door for the structural bracing, where it's a 10-foot addition. But that encroaches 11 inches into the 5-foot side yard setback. So we're asking to reduce that setback to 4 foot 1 inch.
So you're trying to build a 3-car garage for 2 cars? Is that what you're trying to do?
2 cars that way, because there's bikes and strollers and sports equipment, and so that takes up the other. And they live on a golf course, so I think they want to get a golf cart. So that takes up the 3rd space.
Well, what's the hardship here? I don't think. Yeah, just asking, what's the hardship?
It's just to allow, and some of it goes to the exterior design so that the facade is balanced. If they have the 16-foot wide door and then the same spacing, the 8-foot door and the same spacing between the doors, it just looks like it was done. It was built all at once instead of kind of looking like a smaller door that was scabbed on at the end.
What was the commission's concern? Why did they vote no?
I think the same reason you're wondering what the hardship was. They struggled with the hardship, just make the door smaller, right? And then you can get everything to fit.
And you don't want to do that.
The owner doesn't want to do that because they want to be able to pull a car into that space. And we didn't think, we can build up to 5 feet, so we didn't think that 11 inches really had that big of an impact on the property since the houses are spaced pretty far apart. So, I'm used to working in kind of the very urban areas of Columbus, and going to 3 foot, to the property and even closer is the norm, so.
What's the norm for this neighborhood? Is that the norm? houses to be up close from each other like that?
Right now, it's kind of there's a 13 foot on one side and 14 feet on the other side.
So from what I can see, there's a fence in the back, right? Behind the shrubs. You're effectively just going over,
To the fence, not even to the fence.
yeah, but effectively it's in front of your backyard. And you're only going 11 additional inches beyond what's permissible.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this application? Ready to move me? Do we have any other questions? Anybody want to?
What are the Dunning factors? Could the property yield a return beneficial return without variance? I say yes. Is the variance substantial? I believe it is not. The essential character of the neighborhood would be essentially altered. I don't think it would be. Government services would not be affected by this. We don't know if the property owner had knowledge of the zoning prior zoning restrictions. Could this be obviated through some other method than a variance? Based on the size of the garage door, no, it would not be. I think this meets the spirit and intent.
Okay, ready to call the question?
Call the question.
Question's been called, call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
I concur with my colleague's assessment and vote yes.
Mr. Malika?
Oh, yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
I concur with the Dunning factor analysis and I'll vote yes. Variance granted, thank you.
Thank you.
376 East Deshler Avenue.
Evan Little, I have been sworn in.
Signing of the roll there.
Right. 376 East Deshler Avenue is located on the north side of East Deshler Avenue, approximately 400 feet east of Brock Street. It's part of the Columbus South Side Area Commission, and the existing zoning is R2F residential district. The 0.14 acre site is currently developed with a single unit dwelling. Surrounding uses include similar single unit dwellings to the north, east, and west, and a multi-unit residential development to the south. The applicant proposes to renovate the attic of the existing dwelling, converting the now 2.5-story structure to a 3-story structure. The height increase requires a recalculation of the required side yards, which would be larger than what currently exists on site. The applicant is thus requesting a variance to reduce the minimum side yard from 5.25 feet to 3 feet for the eastern side yard. Planning is in full support of the proposal. Staff note the proposed building and elevations are consistent with South Side Plan and Columbus Citywide Planning Policies CGP2 design guidelines. Division of Traffic Management has no comments, and the Columbus South Side Area Commission has recommended approval of the requested variances, voting unanimously. City Department's recommendation is likewise that of approval. Staff recommends approval as both the third floor renovation and the reduced side yards are consistent with the development pattern of the surrounding area. Sure.
Do you have anything to add to the application?
No, thank you.
Have any questions for this applicant?
It seems like these are existing conditions, right, that are just coming up because of the addition.
Precisely.
Does anybody want to speak about this application? Okay, Duncan factors, take it away.
List out here. Could the property yield a reasonable return without the benefit of the variance? It could. Variance is not substantial, it's existing. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered. It does not affect the government delivery services. We don't know about the knowledge of the zoning restriction if the property owner knew about it. Could it be obligated to somebody the benefit since it's existing? It could not. And it does meet the state head.
Okay, any follow-up question?
All the questions.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Maleko?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
I concur and vote yes.
Chair Paul Rayleigh?
I also agree and vote yes. Variance granted, thank you.
Thank you.
2135.
I'm Michael Maestros with New Avenue Architects and Engineers.
10 times also with UIB Architects and Engineers.
Have you guys been sworn?
No, we have not.
Right hand, you promise the testimony you give tonight the truth, and the truth, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, 2135 Iuka Avenue is located on the north side of Iuka Avenue, approximately 140 feet west of 24th Street. That is zoned R2F residential, and it is located within the university area. 0.43 acre site is developed within an apartment building. Surrounding uses are a mix of multi and single unit residential dwellings. The applicant proposes to reconfigure an existing parking lot. Request variances to reduce the number of required parking spaces from 23 to 16. And reduce the minimum driveway width from 20 feet to 13 feet. This site was the subject of BCA 23-082, which is a variance to allow trash. Which variance was granted to allow the placement of a dumpster in front of the road setback. Planning is supportive of the parking reduction as the extent of the proposal is small, resides in a pedestrian-friendly environment. The University District Plan encourages variances that aim to preserve and enhance the walkable nature of the area. Staff note the proposal is located within the Historic Resources Commission and the University Board. Will need to receive a certificate of appropriateness from both bodies. Therefore, planning is supportive, and the proposal is consistent with plan guidelines. The Division of Traffic Management comments have been addressed, and the University Area Commission recommends approval. City staff can recommend approval as the granting of these variances will bring the site into compliance.
Okay, do you have anything to add to this application?
I would just add that this was approved already about a year ago. It just, the site compliance plan that the previous owner they had hired an architect to do the previous plan, and it turned out that it was, the site plan wasn't accurate. And so when the developer began to work on it, they were not able to create the plan the way the site compliance plan was approved. So that was discovered when my firm took over, and we had a civil engineer give us a survey, and it was a 5-foot reduction in what they thought they had, which is where we worked with Andy Beard in zoning to decide what was more important, the amount of parking spaces or the maneuverability. Everyone that commented back agreed that the reduction in parking spaces was better. And then we, as far as having the parking spaces correct rather than the amount of parking, which is why we are asking for the reduction of the spaces. The existing conditions of the site, there's no way to expand on the parking surface. There's a significant retaining wall that drops off. So there's no way to make the parking lot bigger by any stretch. And then the other variances, as far as the drive aisle, it's just a condition of how it's already configured. We were just trying to make it as safe as possible. And we created a turnaround on the inside. So as you come in that 13-foot, the tight spot, we actually have the angled parking correct. But then, so when you get back to the wider spot, you're able to turn around, even though you only have 19 feet. We do have a new turnaround space where, in case all the spaces are taken up, you can still pull into that striped space and get turned around and go find a spot on the site. So That's about all I wanted to add.
So why were you reconfiguring it in the first place? Like, are you adding on to the building or?
No, this was just completely to legitimize an existing condition.
Oh.
It's just, we were just trying to make it better. Again, the previous site compliance plan was approved. The developer was trying to stripe it and it didn't work. So again, I called Andy Beard. He said, yeah, you kind of have to start over. So we started over and this is what we could do.
Is there anybody here who wants to speak about this application? Okay. You just observing our work tonight?
That he's the owner.
They're gonna make sure it is.
Yeah.
So going down back there.
Whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Yes, because there has been, and it's simply a compliance matter. Whether the variance is substantial. I would argue not, but again, it's existing conditions. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance, absolutely not, because they haven't to this point. Whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, no, because it hasn't to this point. Whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restrictions, yes, they did. Whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than variance, for compliance, so it cannot. Whether the spirit and the intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Yes, it would.
You ready to call the question?
Call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Malacca?
Yes.
Chair Plummer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our meeting is adjourned.